Then one day, I found something in her purse that made me realize my mother was right about her ruining me. It was a medical report showing that my wife had had an abortion. When I confronted her, she got angry and admitted that she had terminated 3 pregnancies. She said, "Yes, I have aborted 3 babies. Do what you want to do." I was furious and said, "You killed our children. If you didn't want to become a mother, you should have told me. But why commit this sin? We could have had 3 children by now." She replied, "If I had those 3 children, my body would be ruined. I'm not going to ruin myself for your children." I lived in Lagos City with my mom. At my home, the person I loved the most was my mother. Our bond was so special that people used to give examples of our relationship. But I didn't know that our bond would change drastically when a third person would come into it. This third person was my future wife. She studied with me in college, and that's where I started to like her. After college, when I got a job, I told my mom that I wanted to marry her and asked her to take the proposal to her house. Her name was ABRI. I was very happy that I had done everything on time. I completed my studies, got a job, and now I was sending a proposal to the girl I liked. But when I told my mom to take the proposal, she said that she had already chosen my cousin, Chinara, for me. I didn't like Chinara at all. She was a simple girl who had just completed her basic schooling, but had memorized the Quran and taught it to children at home. She cooked well and took care of the house, which is why my mom liked her, because she wanted these qualities in her daughter-in-law. But I didn't want just a woman who could take care of the house. I wanted a partner with whom I could build a future. I wanted us to work together, and I wanted her to give me business advice so we could move forward in life together. So, I told my mom lovingly and respectfully that I didn't like Chinara and didn't see her as my future wife. I asked her to take the proposal to ABRI's house because I wanted to marry her. Though my mom was upset, she said, "Son, your happiness is my happiness. Don't worry, we will take the proposal to her house soon." Some people, just by looking at someone, say they look very cunning, even if they are meeting them for the first time. Maybe our personality reflects on our faces. Some people look very innocent and truly are, but some seem innocent but are not. Judging someone by their face requires a lot of experience, which my mom had. When she saw ABRI, she understood at first glance that she was not an ordinary girl. ABRI was a stubborn girl who even made her parents dance to her tunes. When ABRI came and sat near us, her mother accidentally stepped on her scarf, which slipped off her head and tore a little. ABRI immediately snapped at her mother, saying, "Mom, watch where you're going. What happened to you?" I looked at her, signaling to relax since we already knew each other. My mom judged her based on this incident and later told me she didn't want me to marry her. A girl who can talk to her mother like that in front of everyone, what will she do to you and me? I got angry because it was about my future wife. A man's partner is his sensitive spot, and I had already considered her my partner. I told my mom that she was thinking like traditional mothers who believe a cunning girl will take their son away from them. "Mom, what's wrong with you? I want to marry her." My mom said, "I swear, I never thought about it like that for a moment. It's not just about me. A mother is never selfish. It's about you. She will humiliate and trouble you, and seeing you stressed will trouble me too." I said, "Mom, we shouldn't judge someone in advance. How do we know what they are like? Just agree to this proposal. They don't have any issue. It's just about you agreeing." My mom remained silent, took a deep breath and said, "Okay. If this is what you want, I will arrange your marriage with her," my mom said. "But I'm telling you now, she is not the right girl for you. You can find someone better." I knew my mom wanted me to marry Chinara, so she was trying to make me dislike ABRI. I stayed silent and decided to follow the policy of listening from one ear and letting it go from the other. Until the wedding happened, I had to agree with my mom and follow whatever she said because she had agreed to my choice of girl. My wedding took place and my wife came home. I was very happy. My father was abroad and couldn't attend the wedding, but he sent his blessings and video called me. He said, "I have only about 6 months left and then I'll come back." I told him that it was good news because I would be busy with my wife and my mom would feel lonely. But after 6 months, everything would return to normal. ABRI caused a scene on the very first day at home, which I didn't expect at all. In the morning, she said, "What kind of breakfast is this? I don't eat such breakfast. If I start eating like this, I will become very fat. Get me something light." I went and got her bread and jam and tried to explain to her lovingly. I said, "Look, there are 2 ways. One is to eat the food that is made, and the other is to reject it. You act like it's the end of the world. Speak nicely. Even if you say it calmly, I will understand and agree with you," I explained to her gently. A man's way is to speak kindly the first time. Explain things with love. And if a woman is wise and understanding, she will get it. If she has a small mind, she might take it as criticism. I explained to her calmly with an example, but we ended up having a fight. My mood also turned bad, and I started to believe my mom's words from the very first day. But in the evening, my wife herself made up with me, and we spent a great time together. We were enjoying the early days of our marriage. Time passed like this until one day my wife said, "Let's leave this house. It's old now." Indeed, the house was old, but it was very strong, built in an era when houses were made to last. My father had bought this house. It was built in an old-fashioned style, with high ceilings, red floors, and colorful windows. She said she didn't want to live in such a house. She wanted a house with handle doors, wooden doors, clean walls, and tiled bathrooms. She put this idea in my head that we should change houses. I talked to my mom, and she said, "Son, this house is very good and strong. It will last 200 to 300 years without any problems. Your grandfather's grandfather built it. He supervised every brick laid. The foundation is as strong as that of a bridge. Then the walls were built." I said, "Mom, the house is old now, and who lives in such houses these days? The bathroom is separate. The kitchen is huge, which we don't need. And these open grounds, what will we do with them? It would be better if the rooms were bigger. I'll look for a new house and think about selling this one." I spoke to my father and he said, "Son, after us, everything is yours. But your mom has many memories with this house. Think about it." I said, "Dad, in a new house, new memories will be made." My father gave me permission, but my mom tried to stop me. However, I didn't listen to her. The house I chose and my wife liked was very expensive. The deal was such that we had to give this house and additional money. I sold the old house to buy the new one, with the agreement that we would pay the rest later. We made a deal and asked for 3 months to pay the remaining amount. The amount was huge, but I hoped to get a loan from my office. After moving into the new house, my wife was very happy. My mother always talked about our old house and missed it a lot. She had so many memories there because she came to that house as a bride. I was born in that house and my sister had passed away there. All the good and bad moments of her life were associated with that house. Then, a month later, we found out that the house was being demolished to build a factory. My mother was very upset because the house was in a commercial area and the factory owners had bought it. She had hoped that one day she could visit the house again, but now it was going to be completely destroyed and replaced with a factory. First, I married the girl of my choice. Then I sold the house on my wife's request. And now we had new ways of living in the new house. My wife changed everything in the house. She changed the way everything was done. My mother didn't like these changes and started to fall sick, but I couldn't take care of her much because I still had a huge amount of money to pay. If I didn't pay it within 9 months, we could lose the new house. I was caught up in my troubles, and my mother was getting sicker, while my wife continued with her demands. I told my wife, "Where will I get so much money?" She said, "Your father is coming back, right? Ask him for the money. He won't come back empty-handed after spending so much time abroad. He must have a lot of money." I thought that made sense and decided to talk to my father. When I spoke to him, he said, "I don't have the full amount, but I have half, which is 4 million rupees. If you need it, I can send it to you." "But son, this is all I have. I also spent a lot on my siblings' weddings, your education, and running the household. I haven't saved much. If I've been living abroad for 20 years, it doesn't mean I've been saving money for 20 years. Life expenses don't leave much to save." I asked him to send the money because I needed it. He sent it to me and I gave it to the house owner, asking for 2 more months to pay the rest. My tension eased a bit, but my mother said, "Son, you shouldn't have taken money from your father. He has done everything for you all his life. Now you should have managed it on your own. Son, if you can't take money from your father, who else will you take it from?" My mother said, "Do as you wish." I replied, "Mom, I have never disobeyed you or spoken to you in a raised voice. You should not have any complaints about me." My mother fell silent and said, "You are right, but I have one last wish. Think about it." I asked, "What wish?" She said, "I want to see your child. I've been feeling emotional lately because I haven't been well, and I want to see my grandchild." I knew she was emotional due to her illness and wasn't going anywhere soon. I told her, "That is also my wish. Don't worry. We will soon give you good news." My mother was happy. But when I talked to my wife about it, she outright refused. She said, "I don't want to become a mother yet." Her refusal upset me because I also wanted children. I decided not to argue with her much, thinking that Allah would bless us with children in due time. However, despite a lot of time passing since our wedding, we still didn't have children. One day, I suggested to my wife that we visit a doctor. She responded angrily, "Why? Do you think I'm barren? Are you accusing me?" I said, "No, let's just find out if there's any issue. Having an issue doesn't mean you're barren." She replied, "No, I'm not going to the doctor." I said, "Fine." My mother's health continued to decline, and my father returned earlier than planned due to her illness. He stayed with her, but her condition did not improve. Meanwhile, we still didn't have children. Then one day, my father suddenly passed away. I had heard many stories about people spending their whole lives abroad and then passing away shortly after returning home. I had heard many stories of people spending their entire lives abroad and then passing away shortly after returning home. The same thing happened with my father. We didn't even realize what had happened. The doctor said that his heart had enlarged more than usual, which caused his sudden death. My mother was deeply saddened, and I was too. My father had left this world, and at the same time, I found out that the house owner was demanding the remaining payment. He said, "Just give me my money because I am going abroad." I didn't have the money. I told him that my father had just passed away. He replied, "What does your father's death have to do with my money? He is gone, but you made an agreement with me. You still owe me 20 lakh rupees. I didn't even have 2 lakh rupees at that time. I asked my wife to give me her jewelry so that I could sell it and promised to get new ones made later. Her jewelry was worth at least 20 lakhs, some of which was my mother's. But she refused, saying she wouldn't part with even a ring. We had a fight, and I said, "If you don't support me in my troubles, who will?" She replied, "I can't support you by giving up my jewelry, because once sold, it can never be replaced." I was stressed and went to sit with my mother. She asked why I was worried. I told her about the money I owed and that a month had passed without me realizing it, and I had no money left. My mother, who had gold bangles and earrings, offered them to me, saying, "Take these, maybe they will help you." I replied, "Mom, this won't be enough." She said, "Son, I told you not to marry that woman. She has put you in such a big trouble. What was wrong if we stayed in the old house? I wanted to die in that house, but your wife has made my life a living hell, and now it will be your turn. I told you on the first day that she wasn't the right woman for you." I told my mother, "Mom, I came to you for support, but you are making me feel worse." I left. But that was my biggest mistake because by morning, my mother had passed away too. She had been ill for months and couldn't bear the grief of my father's death. My mother took it to heart, and I deeply regretted being rude to her in her final moments. My argument with the house owner escalated, and a couple of months later, he took the house from us, and we had to move into a rental house. My business was also not doing well, and the money we had received from selling the house was slowly running out. We had initially paid some money for the new house, but after the dispute, that money was refunded to us, and now it was being spent gradually. My wife's spending was uncontrollable. She shopped every day and had spent countless lakhs of rupees. Then one day I found something in her purse that made me realize my mother was right about her ruining me. It was a medical report showing that my wife had had an abortion. When I confronted her, she got angry and admitted that she had terminated 3 pregnancies. She said, "Yes, I have aborted 3 babies. Do what you want to do." I was furious and said, "You killed our children. If you didn't want to become a mother, you should have told me. But why commit this sin? We could have had 3 children by now." She replied, "If I had those 3 children, my body would be ruined. I'm not going to ruin myself for your children." I told her, "You are not fit to be a wife, a woman, or a mother." She left in anger. I thought she would come back, but instead, she filed for a divorce. One wrong decision in my life ruined everything. I still remember the time when I lived peacefully in my own house. My mother used to cook delicious meals for me, and I shared everything with her. My father supported me, but now he was gone, and my mother passed away upset with me, and my wife betrayed me. When we dismissed the advice of our elders, thinking they have lived their lives and shouldn't make decisions for us, we make a big mistake. Experience speaks volumes, and elders know what kind of person someone is and how long they will stand by you. My mother was right when she said my wife was not a good person. But at that time, I was blinded by my own foolishness. I pray for my mother, asking God to elevate her status in heaven and forgive me.